The collectible market is on fire. Everything is setting records. This year seems like it's total Moon Boy year, but should collectors be a little bit cautious or they should be optimistic going into the year? We're going to talk about all of it on the Ungraded Truth podcast coming up next.
Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how can it ever get crazier? And then it always does.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the #1 show in the universe, the Ungraded Truth, the greatest collectible podcast that has ever been done, ever been made, ever been streamed, probably will ever be. But lucky for all of us, we got another episode tonight, a big episode, a lot to talk about. But before we get into all the topics, I have to say hello to the esteemed gentlemen. Yes, they are esteemed. My co-host, Manu, the 99 Newsstand, Rob, Neo Cards and Comics, and Ryan, Automatic Comics. Gentlemen, happy Saturday. What's going on?
Blizzard prep.
I don't think you were even overselling it, you know.
I don't think so either. I think Joe and Jada need to watch out. At least one, maybe no one on the panel knows that reference, but someone watching will know that reference.
No, everybody's.
I understood. I understood that reference. Well, you know what's funny? Am I overselling it, or are we just in the total Moon Boy season that is collectibles, which is kind of related to the title of our show today, which is the risk on environment. We're going to talk about how everything, no matter what vertical of collectibles you're diving in these days, everything is selling like crazy. And is it only going to go up from here, or are we at the top? That's what we're going to kind of talk about in a lot of things. And we have some very interesting other stories. We have some OA scandals that we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the show. But before we really dive into the main topics, we have to talk about how, gentlemen, congratulations. The Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, the fastest growing YouTube channel in the world, is now at over 1,000 subscribers. And we are actually streaming this episode on the Ungraded Truth channel. It's a co-stream, of course, like we always do with the gentlemen's YouTubes as well. But guys, we did it. How do we feel?
I could not be prouder.
Yes, ditto.
this 1,000 subscriber milestone.
This is the most proud accomplishment we've ever done in our lives. I hung it on the refrigerator. I think that everybody in the chat should hang it on their refrigerator as well. But if you have not subscribed to the channel, I would ask, if you enjoy what you see here, head on over to the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, link in the description, give it a sub. We got to grow this to 1 billion subscribers. But maybe more importantly than that, the Ungraded Truth is also on Spotify. You can get all of your Ungraded Truth goodness on any RSS feed, but of course, Spotify, link is in the description. If you guys want to head over there, give it a follow if you want to listen to us.
Look at all those 5-star ratings.
Look at all these 5-star ratings.
Unstoppable.
We need more 5-star ratings, okay? That would be amazing if you guys could go over to the Ungraded Truth at Spotify and give it more 5-star ratings. But fellas, we're just killing it right now. We're gonna talk about the big topics of the show, but 2026. Can you guys believe how much of a Moon Boy season it is right now? Have you guys been buying anything? Are you guys opening up your wallets like everyone else is in collectibles?
I spent too much at the end of last year. My Moon Boy season started a little early, I guess. So I have not dove into buying something else yet. I bought a few little things here and there, but yeah, not a big item for a couple months.
Oh, you guys, what about Manu or Rob? How's your buying these days? Are you feeling like why not? Everything's going to the moon. Buy. Oh my God, there it is.
So
Mr. Money bags over there.
I went to a show today, and there were even more card vendors than it was the same show. They held it a little closer together than they normally do. There were more card vendors than even the prior one. Like the comic section was becoming a lot more card vendors. And now maybe that's just because they held two together and they had space open. But I was also seeing One Piece taking some pretty prime real estate with those vendors. So it's out there right now. People are feeling the hype on it, and so they're definitely pushing it.
I still want to know what One Piece is, so I look forward to tonight's episode because I feel like I'm going to get an education.
Oh my god.
Oh,
sorry.
why don't we dive?
Cartoon pirates with boobs.
There it is. All right.
Also
I'm up to
muscles.
speed.
It's one or the other. It's
Throwing
for
little
everybody.
swords, you know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, maybe we can give Manu that education right now because that
Let's
is
go.
the top story that we have to discuss, which is, of course, the One Piece madness that is going on right now. I just have a few sales that I wanted to kind of put into perspective for you guys right here. Here we have the 2025 One Piece red manga alternate art for Monkey D. Luffy. Did I say that right?
Luffy.
Absolutely right.
Luffy.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
That sold in a PSA 10 for $24,000. This is a 2025 card, a modern card, guys. Think about a modern comic book ever getting a number for $25,000. We have people.
I thought Absolute Batman was creeping up on that number.
Well, we're going to talk about Absolute Batman in a second. It's just a hair away from $25,000. We also have people right now in the One Piece TCG Reddit pages talking about sales like this, wondering if this is a real deal sale. Like, are these numbers for real? We have crazy sales going on for another piece right here. That was the One Piece TCG monkey card. That was a serial number 89 of 700 that is being reported as a sale of $36,500. Here you guys have it. I mean, it looks like a legitimate sale. It, had a best offer accepted, but $36,000 for a serial card, mind you, that is a serial of 700.
Are you kidding me?
$36,000. We have
Apparently Manu did not read the notes before the show.
Listen, we're getting you and
right now he's like, I gotta get into
right
this.
Now. Yeah.
This is something else, man.
You guys should be in the loop on this though, because One Piece is the number one selling comic book of all time.
Well,
the number one.
Number one selling comic book of all time.
Let's not get started with a comic versus manga conversation here. We got to finish this out. All right, we got a ton of Nami cards, which of course, guys, I don't know why this character sells. Maybe you guys can use your imagination as to why people want to collect her. I almost said Pokemon cards, her One Piece cards. And then let's kick it off now to the roundtable discussion. And I'll set you up here, Neo, with your post right here, being the One Piece resident expert, the One Piece card collector that you've been doing this for years, obviously. Yeah. You made this post right here with obviously a ton of crazy 5-figure sales. But what the heck is going on with One Piece trading cards? I thought that they were supposed to be a big loser in 2026.
I don't know, but I have triggered chat with the calling it a comic book instead of a manga. So mission accomplished on the driving engagement.
Yeah, that was the plan.
It's in the ultimate hype phase right now, and it's basically a land grab. So everyone's, you're in that phase of it's going to keep going up. So I need to hurry up and buy before it goes up again. And you're seeing just like comps jump each other left, right, and center. And the pop reports are large-ish, but not huge, given the overall popularity of the show and people coming in. The pop reports are probably going to grow just based off of the grading data and stuff that I looked at and talking to PSA. So we'll see how this all shakes out. The question is will enough people actually want to own these? And there are some folks, I mean, you count myself included, that have started watching the show because of this and actually and
then realized it's like over 1,000 episodes and are like, oh my god!
It's like, this show's good. I guess that's why they made 1,200 of them.
I mean, and somebody commented about surprised you guys don't know about the Spidey Magic the Gathering cards. Oh, we do,
we know,
and they have done terribly. So,
so
everything card doesn't necessarily go up right away.
But it is cool of him to point out that there's like the ASM 316 card in there. It's like a really good looking card. And now the PSA 10s are available. I'd imagine they're not too pricey. It's kind of a fun buy. I might pick one of those up in a PSA 10.
Corey, we will talk more Marvel Magic trading cards throughout this calendar year. I have a feeling it's going to show up a lot more. But Ryan, what do you kind of make of the whole One Piece craze? I mean, I know you know a little bit about it, and you were kind of thinking you made mention of the sort of hockey stick valuation that One Piece saw at the end of the year, but it feels like we're still getting pretty hot.
Oh, right? I mean, well, it's the type of thing like that. We're very near the beginning of that one, And so that's why it's like, I don't know so much if One Piece will correct this year. Like, who knows how long? Like, the Pokemon run last year lasted an entire year. Now this seems like it got crazy fast. Like, I mean, like 0 to 1,000 miles an hour, really. Because, I mean, honestly, like if you watch some of these other like TCG channels, they were struggling to sell One Piece cards 6 months ago. Like, you were giving that stuff away, and then I don't know what happened. You know, it's not like I don't know if it was a set that started it, but not really, because all the sets seem to be doing pretty well, other than there's a couple that aren't desired as much. But I don't know what triggered, if it was just like, you know, the Poke Bros were like, oh, Pokemon's starting to fall, we need to start putting our money into something else, and it just happened to be One Piece. Is that what it is? You know, like, are there like there's a lot of talk about are some of, and I think you're kind of implying this or talking about that there, that are some of these sales like fake sales that then cause the thing is though, it's like are they fake sales that then caused real sales, you know, where somebody actually buys it, you know, and then how, like, once it's real, does it just make it real, like it caused the real demand to appear very quickly versus organically? Like, I mean, I think if you're buying a 1 of 700 card for $36,000 right now, your risk meter is broken. And, you know, and we're probably averaging a little older than a lot of the people that are, well, I don't know, like, it might be the older guys that are spending, that have 35 grand to buy this stuff. But like, I think that as you get older, you start to like realize, like, that's a lot of risk to take on. And if maybe it does go up, it doubles and it goes to 70,000, or maybe it goes back down to what it was before, and it's like a $5,000 card and you just lost 30 grand. Like, if you're willing to take that risk, go for it. But that is not the type of risk I would be willing to take. It's just, it's too much.
I mean, you can, there's definitely a bull and a bear case that you can make for it. The bear cases is that we have seen this happen in pretty much every collectible ever. And we all know how that story typically ends. When stuff spikes like this, that it usually never sustains and can't hold. The flip side for the bull case is that One Piece is already an established TCG. It's been around for at least a few years now, and the game seems pretty popular. Like, the actual playing of the game seems popular, and it's survived like its initial launch, and multiple sets have come out, which a lot of these don't. One Piece itself is super popular as a property, so it has that going for it.
Can you tell us real quick, like, what year did that IP come out, so I have some sort of meter in comparison to Pokemon?
I think, or 2000 is when the anime started.
Oh, that's not too far after Pokemon, so it's had a.
I think Ryan, do you know? I think they pretty much started pretty close together, didn't they?
I don't know the year it started.
Okay. I mean, they literally have 1,200 episodes, so it's been around for a while. But
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm sure chat's probably already on it.
78 points. What's up? He says 94.
We've got 94 and 99. So,
two very different answers.
so we can average it 97.
So chat's not super on top of it. But so the game's been established for at least a few years now. And some of these cards were pretty expensive prior to this. Like the Luffy that I shared on the Instagram post that was going for 20 grand. That was before everything went crazy. That was a $5,000 card. So it wasn't like it went from like $100 to 20,000. It went from 5K to 20K, which, don't get me wrong, is still a massive jump, but it's not like that card, they were giving that thing away prior to everything going crazy. So there was an established collector base willing to spend decent sized money on this stuff prior to things going crazy. And now I don't know if it's what, you know, Ryan said with Pokemon people potentially flooding in. Is it people that were already One Piece fans that now realize there's cards all of a sudden? A little combination of both. Probably some overhype, probably some sports card guys, probably some people just chasing money. I think it's just a little bit of all of it.
Well, it is important to point out that some people in the chat are saying, I mean, One Piece is a very big IP. It is a very successful brand. It's been around. I can confirm. I know people in my actual life who are non-collectibles that absolutely love the anime and love the manga. And it's important to note that Netflix did have a successful season 1 for it, and season 2 is coming out. So it could be sort of a cultural stars aligning situation, and that's kind of why we're getting this surge. But I did kind of want to talk about something that we discussed sort of this last show, maybe it was 2 shows ago, where we made mention of the fact that once Pokemon started to dip, One Piece became this conversation in the culture of like, oh, what's the next thing that's going to pop off? And I just wonder if the market is just getting so far in front of the or they're speculating so much on what the values could be, and actually the highest possible values are being priced in right now with some of these sales, as opposed to like this value, say, of this card maybe hitting 5 figures would have organically got there, but now people are sort of spending that money that they think that these things are going to sell for 5 years down the road. And Rob, I kind of want to ask you 2 things that I think would be interesting to talk about. One is just the sentiment, as you do have your TCG channel, and when you've done One Piece coverage, like, is the culture in the comments or the people that you feel talking about it, are they like, this is ridiculous, or are they like, this is going to the moon still? Or like people don't even know and they're not even ready. And then number 2, remember how much we talked about Marvel trading cards like popping off? And it was because like the sports card constituency was like, what's the next thing? And everyone just thought Marvel cards, and that became the thing. I wonder if that's what's happening with One Piece, but I'll throw it back to you with those 2 questions.
I'll answer the second one first. There's for sure some of that happening, because I've seen, like repack buyers coming in and now looking for One Piece stuff. I'm in a bunch of sports card Facebook groups, and I'm seeing people selling stuff, buying, looking to buy, looking to sell, people cleaning the shelves for retail, flipping it at card shows now and in online groups. So that is 100% happening. And that's probably driving it even higher than, I think it was already like, okay, we're starting to take off. And then it got like another boost from a lot of the regular card folks coming in, both from the sports and Pokemon side. Regarding like the sentiment in the comments, because I have done a few One Piece videos, and you get both sides. I get a lot of basically that bull case for Pokemon or for One Piece that I just laid out, and then you get a lot of the Pokemon folks being like, oh no, this is nonsense. Look at the pop count. This doesn't make sense. What are you doing? Like, this should sell for more. So there's definitely some push-pull there. The other thing that's going on too that I kind of feel bad for is the game itself was very popular, and those folks don't know what hit them. And it's very reminiscent of what you said, like the Marvel card collectors that were hardcore back before that stuff went nutty. And then when it took off, they were just kind of like looking around like, what just happened? Like, 1, my cards are way more valuable. 2, I can't afford any of this stuff anymore. And there's like a little bit of that panic and a lot of like anger of like, my cool indie band got popular is definitely going on. I'm seeing in that community a lot of hate and vitriol towards the scalpers, there's like people posting, cards for sale, and like half the folks are like, you're an idiot, that card's not worth $1,400, this is a $200 card. And the other half of the comments are 50 people fighting for it at the $1,400 price. So it's like, on one hand, the people are like, this card's a $200 card, and on the other hand, there's a line 10 people deep of like bidding it up higher and buying it at that price. So it's, I don't know, it's always fun when these markets get crazy like this, watching basically people eat their young. It's like the jungle out there between the different little camps that people kind of split off into. And even if you're not like super involved in it, is kind of entertaining to watch.
Well, and kind of going in that, I was just saying, going in that same realm, like there was there's a channel called Chasing Cardboard, and he went and he bought the sports cards collection from a guy who was basically moving everything into One Piece. And that guy had moved largely into One Piece already. He had started like about 8 months earlier, 6 to 8 months earlier. And he was talking about, like, he actually played the game. He likes the game and everything, but he's like, yeah, he's like, these players, like they weren't thinking anything about the potential values of these cards. And I was getting all these like great cards from them and everything, and they didn't think anything of it. And now like a card that, they didn't care about because they were only looking at it from the play perspective, he'd get is like a $15,000 card now, and it's so like you had mentioned, like getting kind of punched in the face. I think just, none of them were thinking about it from a value perspective, which is understandable considering, I mean, 6 months ago, people were struggling to sell them. So like they just weren't seeing it, but he took that, that initial, that risk. And for him, it really paid off. But those are the people that generally make money in these situations. The ones that were a little bit ahead. And the ones like the guys that bought in well below, but man, when you're buying into the teeth of a jump, like you can do well. Like, like people made money off the comic boom for a year or two before everything petered, but cards, we just know cards move up and down quicker. So it may snap back fast, but you never know. I mean,
either of you guys One Piece collectors, or are any of you guys One Piece collectors?
I just watch anime. I'm very low on the TCG collecting side. I have a few Pokemon cards and that's it. But no, I don't own any One Piece cards.
If I could ask a technical question real quick, because I'm very curious about what these values might mean, and for me to better assess the risk here. So with that card that's numbered out of 700, the example you guys showed was 89 out of 700, and I believe it was a Beckett 9.5, right? And that thing sold for $36,000. Do any of you off the top of your head know a comparable from Pokemon, like a card that's out of 700? Because I
Pokemon
know
does not number cards
in Pokemon.
Well, sorry, what?
There's
Pokemon
no serial number cards in Pokemon.
Yeah.
No. Oh, yes. So that makes sense, actually. But I am well aware of the fact that in Pokemon, there are cards that have thousands of, for this example, I'll just say PSA 10s, and they still command $1,500, $2,500. So maybe a card with 700, numbered out of 700.
I mean, the Greyfelt Hat Pikachu has a pop of is it 40,000?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's tens of thousands. Yeah,
and it sells for $1,800.
Wow,
that is something that I wanted to bring up.
But
yeah, it is interesting because I know that in general, when you talk to comic book collectors and you think about pop reports and how many 9/8s are out there, when we make fun of an ASM 300 having 4,000 9/8s, people are always like, oh, that's so ridiculous. But in trading cards, it's another beast. You can have a census of 10,000 PSA 10s and they can still sell for a lot of money. But $36,000 with a 700 serial, that seems, that just seems crazy to me. I don't know if there is a possible example.
Yeah, the way I like to look at those is, and PSA has done posts like this where they say what's the most valuable card in there, or valuable cards in their grading history. And I think for TCG, I think it's the Greyfelt Hat Pikachu, and so and it's where you multiply the number of cards by the value. And so that one, granted, all 700 aren't going to be 10s, but they do grade well. So it might be 600 of them are 10s. And so you go 600 times 30,000 and you're at, I think, 18 million, I think, and if it's 35,000, 21 million, I think that's roughly about what that would be. And so you look at that and you're like, that's just one card of many. Is there that actual ultimate demand out there when you're talking about it in that perspective? And I don't know.
The other thing to note about One Piece too is that it grades very well.
That's what I was saying.
Bandai printed, but their gem rates are 90% plus on stuff getting sent in. Now I don't know if everything coming out of the pack is that clean, but at least it seems like it's very easy to tell what to send in and what not to send in. But a 90% gem rate is insane. Even most Pokemon stuff is in the 30s or 40s, and you have a legit shot at black labels with Beckett on these. That's why a bulk of Beckett's TCG mix is made up of One Piece. They get more One Piece percentage wise than any other grading company by a wide margin.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty interesting to see, everything kind of going on with One Piece. And I think it's going to kind of lead into even the bigger conversation about, the title show being risk on. I do find it fascinating that there's always in collectibles, there's so many people are so excited to speculate on the next thing versus becoming a pure expert in one thing. And I kind of think about you, Manu, where it's you have 3 things that you know so well that you sell, and that's how you are very successful. But then meanwhile, the market is always sort of chasing oh, but if I buy this now for $1, imagine it could be $1 million, tomorrow. And so it's just so funny how people see the dollar signs in that sense versus like, if you have asymmetric knowledge and you just really focus on one thing, you could still do very, very well with it. But I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
No, I absolutely have thoughts on that. I appreciate you saying that. And like the initial thought is like, yeah, these numbers are exciting, but forgive anyone watching this that's a huge One Piece fan. This is a personal thing I'm about to say. I don't care. Like the money is not enough to get me to invest my time in a generally like organically I'm not interested. That's a better way of saying it. Not I don't care. That's harsh, but I can't, if I don't organically get drawn towards something, I'm just not going to be there, right? I love the business of collectibles. I love the idea of an arbitrage, if it's possible. In this market, it doesn't seem it is. In this market, you're buying into something that's already getting very expensive, but maybe there's some opportunity to, who knows, right? But I'm not going to put that much energy into trying to capitalize on this excitement, on this enthusiasm, because it's not an interest to me, right? And so I am that sort of person that even if something exciting is happening outside of my realm of interest, I don't go running there. I'm not going to start creating content. Well, I guess this is a piece of content about that I'm a part of. But, independently, I wouldn't start creating content. Yeah, right. Independently, I wouldn't start creating content about One Piece. But it is still fascinating as an observer of markets, as an observer of the psychology of collecting and investing and selling and all of that. It's fascinating, right? So from that perspective, I do want to know what's happening. But yeah, my way of going about all things is kind of like, where is my heart, and focusing, right? So it's depth rather than width or something of that sort, right? Like being a master of that, being the go-to for that sort of thing rather than trying to cater to whatever's hot at the moment. And that ties into a lot of things, right? If you're always riding a trend, well, you're never really establishing a foundation. You're always going to have to jump from one thing to another. And that's not to say that everyone in One Piece is riding a trend. I'm sure there's hardcore, like, know everything about it, experts like really deep in the weeds doing great because the thing they love has just blossomed, and they were probably unknowingly prepared for this moment, which is so exciting. And I've found myself, in small bits in things like that before, but never at this scale. So it is of interest to me generally, but in terms of like, is it going to make me start collecting One Piece? I don't think so, because I'm only learning about it now.
One thing that is really notable is, Rob, you talked about the ingrained game or player base kind of being blindsided by this whole collector, speculator fiasco that has happened, or not fiasco, but just a surge in attention here. And I thought that this post was really interesting, that One Piece is going all out to stop resellers. Check out this post that Courtyard posted, but this is from the One Piece card game, where they had an important announcement: to help prevent resale and ensure the continued availability of our products, we will remove the plastic shrink wrap from booster boxes at the time of purchase in all US One Piece card game official shops. We sincerely appreciate your understanding, cooperation. Can you imagine that you
Wow.
go to an official One Piece store, and when you buy a set, they remove the shrink wrap? I mean, I thought
It did happen. It did happen with Pokemon, though. They did it for Evolving Skies.
No,
maybe?
Prismatic.
Prismatic. Prismatic. Yeah, they did it for Prismatic for a while, like a little while, when things were going absolutely crazy.
Yeah, but it wasn't official communication from Pokemon itself, though. That was just something some local shops
True. Yep.
would do to like kind of protect their customer base. Pokemon, like the corporation, never sent anything like that out. But
Well,
some
yeah,
card
they were also selling them sealed, but they're like, you've got to pay market. So
yeah,
like,
it's basically you had a choice. Like if you want the shrink wrap, you're paying market price. If you want it with the shrink wrap removed, we'll sell it to you at like MSRP, basically.
Interesting.
Can we double click on that for a second? Because I'm curious, like, what would the fallout is there? Like, when in that post, if you kind of dive into the comments, a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, there goes the One Piece market back to Pokemon," and then some people are like, "Oh, thankfully, or thank God they're making this happen," and then other people are like, "Well, this is just going to make sealed product even more expensive." What was the fallout, if any, when card stores did that?
I don't think that they're really, I personally haven't seen any crazy fallout from it one way or the other, because I also don't know how many, like what the percentage of official shops are versus shops that just have allocation. So I don't know how big of an impact that actually had.
Well, I mean, one other thing is that at least it seems like for now, I don't know how much these, I mean, with the price of the cards, maybe it's continued, but, and I think we maybe talked about this on the last show, that the One Piece product generally is less punishing to open. So like Pokemon, opening Pokemon cards to make money is, you are a fool. Like you're just gonna get wrecked. But One Piece, that really wasn't the case. People were saying like you could open One Piece and you could still like on just an average box get 60 or 70% of your money back. And so like you weren't just getting destroyed every time, which lets you go back in for more. Whereas like Pokemon, you're lucky if you're getting like 20% of your money back. And like most of the time it's worse than that. And so like that could be part of why that doesn't have a huge impact, because it seems like some of these cards have so much value that, and I know some of them are like tournament cards and that kind of thing. So that obviously that's different, but some of these cards have so much value. Like I saw one post where a guy was talking about like one of the red Luffy's, and it was like, they're still printing this, and it was selling for like 15 grand or 10 grand, you know? And so it's stuff like that where people are opening product because the value is actually like not as offset as you get with almost every other card product, like sports cards, Pokemon, like you get destroyed opening product, but One Piece, not so much.
Am I going to get wrecked if I open another one of these on the stream? Is there anything valuable that comes out of the booster
play booster box? Not really.
No, not a booster.
Swaggle House, you know what will cool this market down? Their next release that is 100% based on every female character.
Well, we were talking about,
you want to throw cold water on a TCG market.
Oh my god, this One Piece is normalizing Gooner cards. That is what One Piece is doing.
Why don't we set it up properly? You know, Ryan, you were talking about getting value out of the boxes that you buy. Well, check out the newest set coming very soon at the end of February. We have the One Piece Heroine Edition. Is it heroines or is it heroin? Because this thing is going to sell like crazy. Do I really need to explain, guys? I mean, the next One Piece set looks like this. Like, you talk about dudes fighting in Walmart parking lots over Pokemon. I can't wait to see the videos that come out of big box stores when everybody is trying to pick up this set.
I mean, the funniest thing to me is when Neo first like showed this set. I think it was this one. I was like, I thought that they were like someone's like custom created cards where they make those cards that are like exaggerated, you know, or like over sexualized and stuff. It's like, no, these are the ones that the company is putting out. Like, it's crazy. Like it's absolutely crazy. Like we'll see. Like, I mean, you always wonder, like, because the interesting thing is, yeah, like the Nami cards and stuff, like those tend to go pretty well, but like the biggest cards out right now are Luffy cards. So I'm sure this is going to sell for a huge amount of money, but it'll be interesting to see what it's going to be.
On booster boxes are already crazy, and I've already seen some shops commenting that their allocations got cut because the demand for it is already nuts.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said you asked well, you asked Manu if any of us were a One Piece collector, and I was just going to add that no, I'm not, but I actually would buy a box of this purely for the flip, if I'm being truly honest.
If you could get it for whatever MSRP is, it feels like it might work.
Not possible.
Well, there's that.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, it's pretty insane, everything that's kind of going on with One Piece right now. We'll have to take a look and see how this market continues to go throughout the calendar year. It is definitely one of the hottest things that is out there right now. And even the cards that we didn't show, you know, still new modern product of Nami selling for $5,000 a pop. So even if this set doesn't become like, you know, a major 5-figure card market, you know, there's still going to be hits in there that people are still going to sell for 4 figures all day. And so those things are going to sell like crazy. And I just don't see it stopping anytime soon. But,
may I ask a question before we completely move on? It's like it's related, but so I mean, clearly the card market is doing great. You know what I mean? When we're talking about Pokemon, we're talking about One Piece, and And all of that, these are card collectors. Yeah, they're IP specific, but it's still grading companies like Beckett and PSA, and I'd assume CGC is grading some of this product as well. Although I have heard that the TCG crowd is not too fond of I don't know, never mind. I'm not in there enough to know what I'm talking about in that. But it is obviously great that the collectible market is thriving, regardless of if these cards for 37,000 are going to collapse or pull back. Someone is still excited enough to buy them. The question I'm getting to is there a chance that this will have a positive effect on Marvel cards, which is such a tiny market compared to any of this? But like, is that going to spill over? Are people's interest going to say, hey, I remember Spider-Man too? And then, 90s cards and PSA 10s with a pop of 200, will they all of a sudden go from $30 to 300 because 200's not that many? Like, is there a possibility of that?
I don't think so, because I mean, maybe a little bit, but we're not that far off of everybody getting burned on that from 3-4 years ago, when we basically had that. Like, I feel like Marvel cards already had their moment, and now it's just normalized.
No, another moment coming at some point.
People have long memories.
66 Donruss blew up, but that's a different story. Hey, really quick. Sorry. Go ahead. No,
nope,
please.
Go ahead. Nope, go ahead. Go ahead.
The 1966 Donruss, obviously the first, Marvel card set. Funny enough, I met a new collector today. We did a deal together, and I'm not saying who he is, but most recently, card number 34 in a PSA 8 sold for an accepted best offer of $6,600. And on that phone call, I made mention of that sale, and he was like, "I'm the one that bought that." I was like, "No way, bro." I said, "I have a couple of friends that are so upset because it's a recorded comp. And just a few months ago, that card was being offered to some friends for $4K. Well, those days are over. Who knows what that price is now? $8K is probably the asking price for the card. But I actually spoke to the collector that recently got into vintage and spent $6,600 on a pop 35, 38, something like that, PSA 8 of card 34. That's remarkable. Like, that's fantastic. So that's a positive sign. Of course, that's not 90s cards, but that set has done nothing but do well. But it's kind of a different story.
I'll add on to the Marvel card conversation. I also don't know that Top/Fanatics is doing a great job since they got the license, and I don't know that that's going to help things either. There is not.
Well, I mean, that was the big complaint about. That was the big complaint about that last set, was that it was too, I guess, kind of hokey. Like, there's too much like junk in it.
The problem is that they haven't had an original art set yet. Their last big set was the MCU set, which, if you're an autograph collector, the checklist is deep, and there is a lot of, like, basically every MCU character is in there outside of Downey Jr. You could, like, there's Ryan Reynolds autos, there's Hugh Jackman autos, there's dual autos. A lot of them are sticker autos, though, and the card design is just kind of eh. And then when it comes to art stuff, it's just all recycled art, which Marvel card collectors generally don't like. They want original art, and we really haven't seen anything out of that from Topps or Fanatics yet. They're just kind of tripling down on the, oh, look, it's shiny with a serial number on it, you should want it.
They just need to put out a J. Scott Campbell set
from a breaking perspective, but I don't know if actual Marvel card collectors are going crazy for the stuff.
Yeah, the modern Marvel stuff doesn't excite me for the most part.
What I will say about Marvel cards, if we're going to lump in Magic the Gathering, I know that there are people in the chat were talking about how the Magic the Gathering Spider-Man set is not holding up its value very well on the secondary market. However, that set was very popular in terms of its orders. Maybe one of the reasons why the booster boxes are not holding up as well as they could. But I think one of the things that people complained about was that the set itself didn't feel that well designed, and the game players basically just got a bunch of cards that they didn't feel were OP, for playing the game. However, Wizards has a long license with Marvel. There's going to be a new Marvel set coming out of Wizards of the Coast later this year, the next Magic the Gathering set. And sometimes synergies emerge from a player base. So if you have a Spider-Man card that did a certain thing, maybe the next set comes out and you make cards that make that card that used to be very weak, very powerful all of a sudden. And that's what ends up driving the speculation in the player base market. One of the big hit cards from that Marvel set was one of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah,
it was just one in that set. We know that there's going to be more Infinity Stones to come. There's going to be whale collectors that are going to want all 6 Infinity Stones. So I'm just saying there is optimism towards maybe that side of the Marvel card collector market, if you consider that the same as the Marvel card collector market for the top sets and the upper deck sets, etc.
Well, then, if I may, since the prices currently aren't doing so well based on real-time enthusiasm for the Magic Marvel product as it is currently, is that opportunity then? Like, doesn't that, like, where the attention isn't, shouldn't you grab a little bit of land just in case? Because I can get on board with that. I love Marvel. I love Spider-Man and the art. And I just opened a pack. I've got some more packs. Apparently, nothing comes out of these, but the art's beautiful in this set. You know,
It
so
all
like,
depends how much you like holding sealed product. You know, like it's bulky, and if you've got the space for it, you know, I mean that's one thing. But if you don't, it takes up a lot of space, and you got to hold it for, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and a while for cards generally isn't the same as a while for something like comics.
Yeah.
But still, like you gotta just stack it somewhere and be okay with that.
Yeah, I think collector booster boxes at like sub 350, if you're willing to sit on them for like 3 to 5 years,
that's
is
below
probably
retail.
a pretty good snag. I don't
Yeah.
know about singles though.
Okay.
I don't know that I would mess with buying singles. I mean, the thing with buying sealed is if a single pops off and gets super popular, it would potentially drive the sealed box anyway. So you kind of get to reap that reward a little bit.
Yeah.
And Magic specifically is very strange because most Magic folks don't grade their cards. So you
I've
don't
heard.
always necessarily get a huge grade premium, even on vintage stuff. Like a lot of vintage Magic the Gathering, like you would think would be graded, is not.
But as a Marvel guy, I want my Magic Marvel card graded. So it's like a different market has been introduced to that product then.
Yeah, I just don't know how big that market is because
It's
not
tiny.
every Marvel collector is going to want the Magic layer on top of the Marvel card. They just
Sure.
want a Marvel card. They don't want all the glitz and glamour of all the TCG nonsense put on top of it that in their mind might take away from the card. Like it's kind of apples and oranges to a degree. So you're kind of niching down in an already not that big collecting niche.
Mhm.
So I just don't know how much demand there will be there for that stuff. Because graded, once you grade it, you're probably eliminating a lot of the Magic like player base isn't going to pay the premium for it.
No.
It's
Okay.
very interesting. We'll have to see if Magic does well or Marvel cards do well. But we know this. This guy thinks that SpongeBob cards are doing well. New Jersey man spent $300,000 on rare SpongeBob trading cards. I blame Ryan as the dirty influencer.
That's I
for
was
this
hoping
one.
there was like an interview with him. He's like, I saw this post by Automatic Comics and decided to buy all these cards. I mean, but it basically sounds like he bought like almost all those sales where you're like, oh, it's randomly 10,000, 6,000. It seems like he was just clicking buy like over and over and over again.
That is Ryan, actually. Eggplant Comics just said, "Is that Ryan?" That is definitely Ryan. Ryan wears Supreme jackets when
I
he's
think
not
he's
on
got
screen.
a red beard though. Mine's I don't have the red hair.
Well, you
Say
dye
hi.
yours when you go on your SpongeBob buying
That's
spree.
true.
So
Does
anyone know who this person is and how much money he has? Because obviously, you know, that has something to do with this thing that he just.
I mean, he's wearing a
ventured off to
Supreme
do.
coat and he spent 300,000 on Pokemon, so I'm guessing he has.
So
a
who
decent
is he?
amount
Is
of
he
money,
some
or a large
NFT
amount of
guy?
debt.
Is he some crypto
It just
guy?
said
Like,
it
who is
just
this
said
guy?
he was the article or the post just said he was in like finance, like Wall Street type finance stuff, and he had always wanted to get into investing in cards, and he decided to. It seems like he decided to go full bore into SpongeBob.
It's fascinating.
Well, here's really why I bring it up, and I find it really fascinating. It's because obviously, you know, this is kind of a funny, kind of niche thing to go into and spend this much money on SpongeBob cards of all things. But I found that the comment section was just so in celebration of this. People were so, you know, happy for this guy and cheering it. I mean, maybe it was a little bit of irony that they were kind of cheering from, but there wasn't a lot of, you know, a fool in his money or soon parted type of sentiment within the
standard
comment.
comic
Yeah,
comic
exactly.
Language,
Exactly.
Ryan.
Similarly-
Language.
but similarly now, you know, we have posts like this, and you know, we just had a Gary V post where breaking news just 6 hours ago, the #1 issue of V Friends in a CGC 10.0 done by J. Scott Campbell, by the way, this variant cover sold for $10,000 on eBay. which
I
is
want
is wild.
it, it
Go
is wild. I want to go on record saying, huh, I think this is a legit sale. It's not that crazy to me. The book's
Yeah.
numbered out of 555. I don't know how many
No, it's
10s exist.
crazy.
It says one of
It's
just
crazy.
3 copies in a 10. Man, this is fine. Let someone have some fun. I think this
I
is
mean,
a
that's
cool
the thing.
pickup.
Like,
So, wait, let's
I
get
do
this
not
straight.
care how people spend their money. Like that means nothing to me. Like how someone else wants to spend their money means nothing. The only thing I ever kind of offer out there is like I look at it from like, you know, if you care at all, and if somebody's spending 10 grand on that, they don't. They probably have plenty of money anyway. And so,
Let me-
but it's the risk assessment is usually what I'm looking at it from. But if you want to spend 100,000 on that or whatever, that's fine. Like that's your money. Like people are adults; they can do what they want.
That
Hold
thing's
on,
not
Lauren,
going to go
let
down
me-
in value. It's already worth $1 million after that purchase. You know how it goes,
That's
Ryan.
just like that dual signed car that Mr. Wonderful got.
It's 20
you know?
million now. He just
20
spent
million.
12 million on
He's
it.
like,
Yeah.
is it just 20 million?
Sorry, we derailed Swag. Swag, get in here. We're
No, it's
sorry.
okay. Wait, no, I'm gonna square this circle, okay? And I want to throw it back to Ryan here because again, I showed the SpongeBob thing, and we see the Gary V, $10,000 CGC 10.0 purchase, and we just started the show talking about One Piece, and you talked about risk assessment, but risk schmish.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel right now about just everything in collectibles. And Brian, I kind of wanted to, set you up and maybe, talk more about this. We've had private DMs and conversations about like, you could just kind of feel like that people are just less cynical about collectibles and specifically comic books, which we spend most of our time talking about, but maybe like kind of unpack that sentiment and this idea that, I don't know, like 2026 just feels like a buy year.
Well, yeah, I mean, so with that, I was talking about that with a couple guys at the show I was at today too. I was just saying, I was like, when you make YouTube content, you see a lot of comments like all the time, and you just like something within the last couple months has just felt a little more positive. Like you're always going to have troll comments, you're always going to have some negative stuff, but like it's generally felt just like a more positive vibe on everything. Also, like just like things like my like views on certain types of videos that previously wouldn't have done as well are doing better. Like there's more interest. I'm seeing a lot more posts on the different Reddit subreddits that I follow of like, I'm a new collector, and they're, asking questions and that kind of like a lot of that I'm seeing right now that I wasn't seeing before. And so it does feel like there's this positive trend. I mean, I was watching a Comic Tom video today, and he made kind of like just an in passing comment, something very similar, where he just like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it's like about how it just feels a little different with some of these comics right now. And I can't disagree. Like it really does. And it's not, I know some people say like, oh, he sells comics, he's just trying to shill for this stuff. And, maybe there is some of that. I don't know. But but legitimately, like, we started talking about that kind of separate from one another. It was like we both were feeling that, and I think from our comments in our videos. And so I think that's really interesting that something has shifted. And I know we've talked about before that comics often seem to lag cards, and we know last year was a super big return year for a lot of cards. Like after kind of a fall off after COVID and all that, like Pokemon started taking off again and everything. And is this kind of like the comics taking, about a year later, they're starting to feel the same type of move?
I'll piggyback off of that. Oh, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just want to get this on the record. Manu, pro $10,000 V-Friends comics, anti $10,000 PCG Pirates.
Not anti 37,000 out of 700, but yeah, I like the V Friends thing. Maybe it's because I'm a Gary V fan.
That was going to be my follow-up question. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on the worship at the throne of Gary V scale?
I'm up there. I like Gary.
Chill.
That's my guy. That's my guy.
If I got Gary to come on the Ungraded Truth, would you be able to breathe to ask questions?
I would have a hard time getting sentences together. I like Gary.
We are friends of Gary V on the Ungraded Truth podcast, and I would like to send a special message to Gary that, Gary, we need you on the show because we would love to talk about all the things that you got going on
I'm
with V
pretty
friends.
sure I could get Gary Vee on the show.
Well,
And how
then
he
we should make that
totally
happen.
did
That
not
would be
buy that
awesome.
comic.
He
Listen,
did not
listen.
buy that comic.
I wanna ask Gary V about what is going on with private
Me
meetings
too.
with Vincent Zerzolo and Comic Connect. Vincent brought the Action Comics #1, the $15 million Nick Cage copy, over to Gary's place, and they had a conversation about it. I don't know if that implies that Gary is the one that bought the Action one, but very interesting stuff, So he's definitely welcome on the Ungraded Truth. But let me kind of pick up, Ryan, what you were kind of saying with just like this idea of like the positivity and the sentiment in the culture. Again, like I've been feeling it as well, independently, like you said, how you've been feeling it. I'm just starting to see more people, again, less cynical towards comic books, the values, books that you can invest in. Like, I could full well make a video that would be like top 10 Bronze Age keys to buy, and I wouldn't get any pushback from that type of content right now. And that's my sense, that people would be like, "Oh, this is a great video, Swag. Thanks so much," and they would just like take it in as like a nice piece of thing that they can watch. And I think that a lot of this is also being shown in some of the sales. I did a video the other day coming off of the He-Man trailer, and one thing that I thought was so interesting about that is there were a ton of buys after that trailer for DC Comics Presents #47, which is the first appearance of He-Man in comic books. And one thing that's most notable to me with that sale is that it's been a long time since we've seen like a movie trailer or a movie hype, especially related to a Marvel or DC property. Of course, you get it a little bit with other properties, but I know He-Man is kind of not quite DC, but it's a DC comic book regardless. You saw a lot of people buying after the trailer. We haven't seen that in a long time. And that was behavior that you got to go all the way back to 2022 to see that. And the more notable thing about it is that not only were we getting spec buys off of that trailer, which you could make the argument, maybe there has been some, but typically they're like that $5, $10 comic book. We saw 4 CGC 9.8 sales for that book. And a 9.8 is 1,000 plus. You would just never see that or you haven't seen that figure amount sell immediately after a trailer drop off of movie hype. And so anyways, I use that as a prime example to tie back into what we were saying of just maybe these are new people. Maybe there's the COVID collectors have cycled out, so that cynicism is gone. Or maybe it's been long enough to where people are just more optimistic. Or maybe it's been long enough since we had Reholdergate with CGC to where people aren't as upset about collecting as a business or an industry or a hobby. And so, anyways, starting to feel that. And I just think it's interesting.
I think that's a fantastic thing. Lawrence.
Unfortunately, Jared Leto is in the movie, so all of that money is immediately lost. So,
Oh man,
It's true. It is. It might be a tough one.
The He-Man film you're talking about, is that the movie that Lawrence, Mighty Comics and Collectibles, not too long ago, was doing some videos on his channel in the early, those videos did amazingly well. Like the amount of nostalgia that is pent up, just waiting for this film, it's tangible. So I'm not surprised that it moved the needle in the physical market as well of comic books. And it is fantastic to see. I love that. It doesn't feel like ridiculous. It doesn't feel like COVID in the sense that you could just buy anything, it's going to go up in value. But, where the interest is, man, people are not shying away at all from spending some money. I think that's cool.
Absolutely. The He-Man toy collectors are, a very, very, very passionate group of people. And so I think that they are very excited about that film. Now, one other little example of people wanting to only hear good news is this recent clip that was put out by Ryan. Of course, the rest of us on the panel had nothing to do with this. Exactly. This is all Ryan. This is all him. But he got the Ungraded Truth in our very first controversy. But Ryan came out with his biggest loser of 2026 prediction last
I love that Batman video. Every time. It's always right there.
and he talked about how Absolute Batman 1 in a CGC 9.8 is a little too elevated in price right now and feeling like it's going to taper off. But again, relating it back to this topic, I think what was interesting is how polarizing it was. While there were a lot of people that felt like, well, clearly this is a logical take. Like, of course it's going to come back down. People were not happy about it. And again, I think it ties back to like, nobody wants bad news. Like, you're killing the party vibes right now. We're risk on, baby. Like 2026, and so people don't like when you make, petty little graphs about how this book is all tapering down.
My petty is strong right now, and this
My petty is strong.
And that's the thing. Like we were talking about this. So I was all on board with like Team Absolute Batman. I was just making my my commentary on it, and then I had some people calling me a moron or stupid or whatever in the comments. I was like, all right, I'll just start tracking this. so you can expect regular posts from me throughout this year as that book falls down in price, because it is going to, and it already started to. So, but yeah, my pettiness, it's out there.
We are definitely going to follow. We are definitely going to follow the Absolute Batman. But don't you kind of think that ties in to like this idea, of like the bigger conversation with the risk on? Like, people just don't want to hear that this is not going to the moon right now. I mean, I kind of feel like that's what I got from the conversation.
Oh yeah, people are moon boys right now. It is moon boy season, and it's one of the things. It's like, it's always just like what type of content you can make that's going to do well in certain environments, but I cannot make myself tell someone something I don't believe. And I just like, if I feel that there's risk there and I don't believe it, I am not going to tell someone that they should be buying this thing just because, that's what people want to hear right now. But that's why I have less subs than you guys do. So
on this topic, and Swag did make a video about it, and we did have some friends reach out to us even weeks and weeks ago, and it just slipped my mind. I spoke to Swag about it, and I meant to talk about it on some of the streams, but it slipped my mind. But on this Absolute Batman topic, piggybacking off of Swag's video about how, I guess, the second print, what do they call cover B, cover C? The covers that came out after.
Cardboard cover over top of the A cover. So
right. So and it's on the A cover. The A cover has the same UPC.
It's still first print. They have to be first print variants.
Okay, they're first print variants. They're not second and third printings. They're different covers of the first print. But people can just simply remove the top cover, and then you have the cover A, the one that's selling for the most money. And we can't say for certain if this is getting through CGC. I imagine it is. If it's not detectable, well, then it's not detectable, right? And so do we think that if like the education of that out there, would that potentially affect values, or is this big enough that no one cares? Like, it's still just going to do what it's going to do.
I don't think it hurts the number. I don't think it impacts the numbers enough. I think it's just a way that people are making some extra money on this stuff. And I mean, they're both Mickey and I have made videos where we've talked about this, and the feedback is mixed. There's definitely people that think it's okay. I assume they're the people that are selling those that they're taking covers off. And there's people that don't. My opinion is I'm not okay with it. And the reason I can say like why I'm confident in saying that is that if you are not comfortable telling the person you're selling it to that you did this, what you're doing is not correct.
Beautifully said.
And
bro.
So, and nobody out there is taking those covers off and be like, oh, by the way, I took the cover off of this. This was actually the variant. Nobody that is doing that is doing that.
And I'm not afraid to say that I agree with you in that. Like, I get it. It's the same book, and I understand Neo. Do you really want to know? But at the end of the day, personally, I don't feel that there's a gray area there. Like, the book was distributed one way and it's being resold with the cover being taken off. The knowledge of that, of course, is what's going to make the difference to the consumer, to the person buying. But just the idea of it doesn't sit well with me. I do feel that it is wrong to do. I'm not afraid of having that as my opinion, but of course it is happening. And should I buy a 9/8 slab of that book, I have no way of knowing whether that happened or not. So I don't really, I'm still going to be happy with my book. I don't know. Ignorance is bliss. It's an interesting one. Now, does that by chance mean that the cover B and cover C could have this idea of being more scarce now as a result, that some of them have been mutilated to produce cover A's. Could those potentially be up in value later once the story sort of becomes cemented as a part of the lore of this book?
I mean, it all depends. I mean, a lot of those, like one of the things from Mickey's video that he showed was that those ones that were selling for cheaper started selling for more,
Oh yeah.
largely probably because people were buying them to remove the covers and sell
Oh,
them.
that yeah.
You know, and so it's like, did they go up because of that, or will they go up long term? I mean, you never know. Like a lot of times, cover A tends to be like long term, the more desirable cover. A lot, I mean, outside
Yeah.
of ratio variance and that kind of thing, and even then, like a lot of times, sometimes cover A's outprice ratios. So, yeah, I mean, it's just the big difference has been that there hasn't been this extreme level of price difference that at least that in any recent memory for a book.
I'll say more
And
about that just to the cover A thing. You know, I think it's interesting is because we have to remember with collectibles, it's all like demand as being a part of it, and people knowing cover A, like the notoriety of the cover is very, very, very important. Like from here on out, that particular Dragotta image of Absolute Batman is the iconic thing that people think of. Like the cover A cover
Yeah.
is what people picture when they think of Absolute Batman, not the variant like B variant, not the C variant, not the 1 in 1,000 that is super obscure. People just don't remember that that's the iconic image, and so I feel like a lot of those ratios, when they go on sale 5-10 years from now, they slip through the cracks because people already forgot that this is even the important version of this book, and this is a whole different conversation. But I think that that's actually one of the things that I feel like the blind bags of comic books are going to have issue with in catching up to the trading card market, where all these companies are trying to do these hits for comic books in their blind bags, but they're not doing a good job making people know that this is the main cover, that is like the cover that you want. Whereas in the trading card world, serialized numbers, the
yeah.
hits, like it's very not that it's totally easy, but it's easier to know, oh, this is the important one. So anyways, that's a whole other conversation.
I mean,
There,
yeah, like I mean, I couldn't pick the Jim. I know the Jim Lee one. People have said is really cool. I couldn't pick it out of a lineup. Like the only one I could recognize is the cover A.
Yeah.
there are two individuals going back and forth in the chat, kind of just like having a good time, but they're calling the the removal of I even said what they said, the removal of the cover from cover A, just a dust jacket. And I get what the joke is there, but like, and then they were like, yo, if someone took a dust jacket off, you can still sell the book or whatever, but I would still want the dust jacket
No,
with my
I mean,
book. One of my favorite.
actually, dust jackets make original books much more expensive.
Yeah,
Hey,
true
they are.
indeed. One of my
More
favorite
So your
novels.
point is wrong.
No, one
Yeah.
of my favorite books, one of my favorite hardcovers, the artwork is on the dust jacket. Now, the book beneath it is embossed and stuff, and it's still beautiful, but I want it with the dust jacket. But also, dust jackets aren't staple to the book, right? So, for the sake of the joke, yeah. But like this thing is part of the really
Yeah.
related production of it or whatever. But I get it though.
Well, before we kind of move on, I mean, Rob, what's going on in the trading card world, sports cards? Is everyone Moon Boy right now? Are we risk on? Do you feel this new 2026 optimism, or is that just a comic thing?
We are full degen gambler mode right now in the sports card world. That is driving literally everything.
Sweet. I like that.
Yeah, all the new releases are basically built around it. Tops/Fanatics is 100% leaning into it and catering to it. Cards of players that have played like a half a game are outselling all-time Hall of Famers, which that's always kind of been a thing, but it feels even more extreme now.
So I guess all
I'm
that
curious,
to say,
how do like dealers at shows when that show also has one of those buyers, like a Courtyard IO or whatever buyer there, how do they get any inventory? Like when Courtyard and those places are buying at like 100% comps.
Courtyard's not usually set up at a booth. They
Well,
usually
don't they have like
people working.
buyers? Like they have somebody that's like a buyer for them.
A lot of time, yeah, they have they basically have the repackers themselves, like Courtyard, Arena Club, Backyard Breaks, etc. They don't actually go out and do the buying. They're essentially subcontracting like just basically random people that are experienced in cards go out and buy at. So say I'm a buyer for a repacker, I know that they will buy these types of cards from me at 95%. So I try to buy them at 85% and then just instantly make 10% margin is essentially how it works. And they have buying teams out there that do this. So a lot of the times there's not like there's a booth when you walk into the National that says Courtyard IO buying here. It's just random folks usually walking around and cleaning out dealer cases. So it's not like
there
they're
are some
buying
guys that
off
they'll
of,
set up at tables and not have any cards. They're just there.
that will 100% happen, but not like a lot of it is coming from folks walking the show floor, not so much setting up at those booths.
Okay.
It's a little bit of an equal mix, but so dealers can still buy from plenty of folks. It's just the margins are tighter now. Dealers are forced to pay stronger, otherwise they don't get inventory, which has put, dealers, I've interviewed dealers on the channel, they're very much in a squeeze because people do know that there is a pretty good floor that a repacker is going to pay between 80 and 85%, 90% if it's a desirable case hit, sometimes all the way up to 100% if it's something they really, really want or need, like a downtown or a kaboom. And that has put the dealers in the crosshairs a little bit. They are feeling the squeeze because they can't, before they would be able to buy it 70% maybe, and then they could put it in their case at like 105% and sell it for 90 and make their 20% margin. And that's tough to do now.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye out if degen culture makes its way to comic books, because we're kind of seeing some of the degen in the blind bags. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the interesting blind bag influencer controversy later on. But before we get there, we got to go to this other topic, which, first of all, let me just say, guys, I have to say, you guys are prophets, because I feel like whatever we say on the show ends up happening. And it wasn't but just 2 shows ago when we were talking about the world record sale for the Superman 1, and then later on the Action Comics #1 world record sale, how sales and movement begets more sales and movement, and all of a sudden you start to see things getting pulled out of the woodwork. But wouldn't you know it, after the Action Comics 1 sets its world record, we said on the show, wouldn't it be cool to see a high-grade Detective 27 come to market? And sure enough, just like that, at your next Heritage Auction Platinum sale coming up later in February, we got ourselves a 7.0 copy of the first appearance of Batman. Gentlemen, what do you think about this? You get an Action Comics 1 sell for $15 million. Why not let my first appearance of Batman go as well?
What a cool
And it's
book.
actually, it's the same copy that sold in 2020. So,
what did it sell for then?
1.5 million.
Oof.
So, I mean,
I guess on this one,
I haven't really priced this one out, but generally, I think it has a pretty good shot at, breaking 3.
Nice.
Because we haven't had much this high come up. We had a couple years ago, there was a 6.0 that Bob Kane won, that one went for 1.74. I mean, these are the type of books where they're going to ratchet up pretty quick with each grade, and with how well everything else has done. Like the records on Superman, the records on Action Comics, 3 wouldn't surprise me. And I'd probably be disappointed if it went below 3. I would honestly probably be disappointed if it went below 3.
let me ask you this question. What if someone wanted this book right now in a above average grade? Is there even any available on the market? Like open?
Well, never. I mean, they're like never openly available, but it's like, if you know the right person, like that's where like someone like Vincent Zolo comes in, where you go like, hey, I want this book. And he might know a few people that have one,
right,
and then reaches out and says like that's how a lot of us were speculating that might be what happened with that 9.0 Action 1, where it was like somebody was like, I want this. And it wasn't really this is the price that it's market price. It was the price that person maybe said, yeah, I'll sell it if you're willing to pay this much. And so those situations are out there. Now, granted, if that happened, I would expect it would get the same type of media push that the Action 1 had, because the people that make those purchases, they want those public because they want that mark,
The
that
value
mark,
cemented.
out there. That's how. So it's like, this is what this is worth now, and so I doubt one has really sold in a while that's up in that type of grade. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good looking book.
Yeah.
I know nothing. I think it goes higher than the number that Ryan's thrown out there.
I think that it could, because what are we talking about for world record sales? We have the $15 million Action one that just happened. Before that, we had the $9 million Superman one that was recently found. Before that, we had the $6 million Action Comics one that was a 6.0 copy, or is it 8.0 copy? I can't remember off the top of my head. Then we had a $5 million or $5.3 million Superman one, and then we had a $3.6 million AF-15. So is this the sixth most valuable book? If it's in the top 5, it'll go for more than 3.6 million.
Can we
That's
scope
essentially
the
what we're
census
asking.
real quick?
Yep.
I mean, that's a
Yeah,
very important
that's what
part
I
of
was
this
looking
question.
at right now. So there are 6 graded higher. There's
Okay.
2.75s, 2.8s, an 8.5, and a 9.2.
Okay. Oh, that 9.2, boy, that's gotta be. I want to see that come to market.
So,
Oh gosh.
I mean, Detective Comics 27 has always sold for less than Action 1 by
Superman versus Batman,
by a
just
fair
kind of
amount.
general.
Like they generally aren't even close. So I mean, like a 7.0 Action 1 right now would probably go for what? Like, what did the 8.5 go for? 6 million? I mean, with that last Action 1, like maybe a 7.0 goes for 6 million now, 5 or 6 million. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I'm getting like maybe 3. But I would be, like I said, I'd be disappointed if it went below 3. So 3 to 4, somewhere in that range. But
here's what's the interesting thing about it all, right? Is that we had these 2 monster sales. Then all of a sudden you get this book coming out of the woodwork, and within this auction as well, you got another Superman 1 at a 6.5 coming up for sale. You have another 1.0 coming up for sale as well in the same auction. You have some other pretty mega big keys. And then it's notable that the Fantastic copy, which, shout out to Darren, who got the bump on his book going from 7.0 to 7.5. He actually made this post that said he is getting ready to part with it. As you can see from the paper right here, for sale, trade, or cash. He wants to do it privately, not through an auction house. But I think it's interesting because it's like, sales begets sales, movement begets movement, repricing the market reprices the market. And now it feels like a lot of this stuff is like, all right, well, I might as well throw my thing into the mix. And shout out to, this original art page is going to be in that sale. We talked about McFarlane art selling for crazy. And now we have like this amazing McFarlane splash coming up. But the question is like, it's Moon Boy season, but is the market going to be able to absorb all of this stuff?
Right.
That's the question. What are we talking about? What? When does this auction go live?
Because that auction is stacked. It's got potentially like multiple $1 million items.
When does that close? The end of February?
I think it's
end of February.
I think it's end of February. Yeah.
So our first March episode could be very telling on what the rest of the year holds.
Well, let's hope it's good.
And granted, like we've talked about this before, like that market is also a different market. The super high end, but it
is, but it has some downstream effects. Like if the high end feels positive, then people are going to be more positive walking out and buying a Hulk 181 or buying a giant size X-Men one. Like it filters down. I don't think it has a direct impact, but if people feel good about the high end, then that next tier down, people are going to feel a little bit more confident about potentially spending money. It might not drive prices, but it might help stabilize things.
Well, and I think that's what we've, like, as somebody who buys and sells comics, that's ultimately what I want to see. I don't like the Moon Boy situation where you have this like crazy stuff and like you're like where people are panic buying because they don't think, because that's what happened during the comic boom, panic buying because they didn't think they'd ever be able to afford this thing or whatever. I'd much rather have a flat to slightly up. That's a much more predictable world to live in. And so that's what I would love to see for the kind of like the more like everyday person comic purchases than like this like constant downward trend that we've been stuck in for years. And I know, like Mickey, you made a video at the beginning of the year, like where you showed that, it's like the last year, it definitely seems like the amount that we've tipped down has gotten less and less and less each year. And it was more or less flat for a lot of books in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll definitely have to report in. We'll definitely have to see. I mean, comic books is still some questions out there, but in the sports card world, they're again moonboying as well as Kevin O'Leary, otherwise known as Mr. Wonderful, says that his Kobe and MJ dual logo man is now worth $20 million. He's feeling really good about his card, and why wouldn't he? Because the Honus Wagner that is currently on Golden Auction, this is a PSA 10. A lot of people say the greatest sports card you could own is currently sitting at $4.2 million with its buyer premium. And, being that you can list your Honus Wagner and get a $4 million, sales velocity begets sales velocity. Another Honus Wagner was like, owner was like, hey, I might as well sell mine. Now it is on Heritage Auctions with an estimated value of $3 million. And another one-of-one Jordan card right here, 1997 Ultra, is being estimated at $2 million in this auction as well. This is going to start bidding early in February, and then this 1998 Ultra Masterpiece Michael Jordan with an estimate of $1 million, and a Mickey Mantle with an estimate of $1 million. So, do we have enough millions in the sports card world to make?
I think you do.
Kevin O'Leary a profit.
Well,
what do you
that
think?
that one's different. Like Voltron Matt in the comments, like is the same comment. Like the instant I saw that, I was like, "What the hell is this?" Like he's just like, this is worth 20 million now.
Yeah.
Like
that's what I do when I go to card shows now. I just declare things have gone up 100%.
Put that on the market and we'll see.
Where's
because if you put that on the market, you are no longer one of the bidders. Well, I mean, you might maybe,
well,
but like you are no longer one of the bidders. And so like that's one buyer that's out of the pool, right?
Are you sure?
But yes, I know we've talked about this. That's so
shout out Kevin O'Leary's jacket.
Oh man, yeah, I was cracking up about that post though. It's like, yeah, it's up 50% already. Yeah. Great investment.
Rob, I mean, what do you think about this? Like the Honus Wagner is sitting at $4 million, and another one coming out, and you got these Jordan cards that are supposed to be $1 million cards. I mean, are the vintage boys the moon boys as well? I thought nobody cared about vintage.
Honus Wagners they do, and 52 Mantles they do. They definitely care about vintage, and there's Ryan laughed and said, yeah, absolutely, there's millions. There's so much money in the high-end sports card market. I don't know how much of it is real, how much of it is fake, but maybe it just all changes hands amongst a couple different people, which is probably likely. But the amounts on the high-end sports card side are insane. I know some of the comic numbers pop way off for the super, like the Action Comics and stuff like that, but cards, just the liquidity in cards just seems way higher.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to come back to Kevin O'Leary in a second. We have to do our due diligence to talk about all the interesting stuff going on, but I want to talk about him when we get to our influencer conversation, because a lot of people out here calling me a dirty influencer when you got guys like Kevin O'Leary talking about $20 million cards. I mean, like that's real influence right there. But speaking of that, another thing that I think is interesting, guys, 26 days remaining. The Pikachu Illustrator sitting at $6.3 million. Logan Paul already made his money. It's the most expensive Pokemon card, or will be the most expensive Pokemon card ever sold. I thought we had to do a Illustrator watch. What are you guys thinking? 22 days left. We're going to have one more show or maybe two more shows before this sells. But now people are starting to think, hey, maybe this is going to get to $10 million.
Well, he turned down a $10 million offer from an OnlyFans model.
Yeah.
I think there's a lawsuit against him about this already because of the whole liquid marketplace situation. So
we talked about that. Yes.
Well, but I don't think there was a lawsuit at the last time we talked about it. Like I think some people, I don't know if it's class action or what's going on, but yeah, there's definitely, like we talked about the questionable nature of how he reacquired it. But I think those people are maybe now deciding that they want to take legal action to see if they can get a piece of this sale.
I think that's good. They should try to do that. What's the most interesting thing about this card? The card is very cool. The number it's going to achieve is very cool. It's, this notion of just because one individual is able to sell something for that price doesn't mean that the next one will, or doesn't mean that someone else would have been able to. Like, all the marketing in the world is behind this card. And I mean, it's remarkable to see. It's on Netflix, it's all over YouTube, it's on news channels. You couldn't get a better rollout for your sale. And it's going to do well. It's already doing well. It's going to continue to do well. But can we talk a little bit about some of those like private offers? Like, if a card's already at auction, you're not going to take it off of auction anyway, right? So what is the point other than just to create this more confidence? Like, the question I'm asking is any of that real? Like, oh, the card's already at 5 million and it's already at auction. You're not going to pull it from auction, okay? I'm going to offer $10 million. Well, by design, the offer is going to be declined because the card's already for sale, already at auction. So it's just more marketing. It's just more creating a value out of thin air. Is it not? Or do you guys think there's some legitimacy to that? And even prior to the 10 million, I thought this was very interesting. Before it had even peaked 5 million, there was that reel that Logan put out about saying that he got a phone call from an individual that asked if Logan would be interested in accepting a $5 million irrevocable bid, which was so fascinating to me because the idea of an irrevocable bid became defined for me. And that's a very intriguing mechanism for me. I really actually like that idea. And so what happens there is, if I remember correctly, is if you place a bid for $5 million irrevocable, that means if the public bidding doesn't get to 5 million, you have to buy it for the 5 million. That's the risk you're taking on. But if it goes above 5 million, since you were willing to show that confidence at a 5 million irrevocable, you get 10% of the upside, without buying the card. And I think that's so fascinating. So learning about an irrevocable bid was very cool, and it got my wheels going or whatever. About
I'm going to
how
give
that
you
would
an
work.
irrevocable bid on your Malibu Sun.
Please do, bro. Like, I would love that. If someone like legitimately wanted to, I'm going to play that game. That's a gamble on both sides, and that's really exciting, actually. But the point is, do you think that was even real? Do you think any of this is real, is the question.
I wouldn't believe anything that comes from that camp.
I side eye anything in the high end. There's just like an automatic. I don't care what auction house it is. Anything on the high end, I'm at least somewhat like, what's going on here?
Is it as blatant as it appears? It's just like, man, there's no regulation. No one's going to tell them to stop, so they just have their way with the market.
Pretty much.
Wow. Yeah. Why not?
Well, it's interesting because with the high end, we're kind of in this place where you got Kevin O'Leary doing a lot of content. You got Ken Golden and Logan Paul obviously doing a lot of content with their Pokemon card, as they should. This is, if you had your Pokemon card up for sale, you would probably be sharing the posts and wanting people to know about your auction. So that makes sense. But it does kind of, parlay a little bit into this interesting topic about influencers. And every now and again within the collectible space, influencers become hobby villain number one. And I made a video earlier this week about a viral video kind of going on within the Magic the Gathering trading card space. Kind of started off of this Reddit thread right here, but I want to read this thread and kind of recap the video a little bit, and we can have this conversation. But thoughts on WotC seeding packs to influencers. This user said, I think this video is pretty compelling evidence that WotC is seeding hit cards, in this case, fractured foil, to large subscriber channels. I watch a lot of pack openings, and this has been pretty consistent for the last few sets. One channel I watched, the YouTuber opened something like 190 collector packs of Avatar and not one neon ink card. And then the Command Zone, which I think he's implying is kind of like a shill influencer or whatever, puts out a video, which I can't seem to find right now, of them doing a collector battle. And oh, look, Josh pulls a neon ink Ong. I'm in agreement that they don't know that they're being seeded these packs, but it smells pretty fishy. The video that he is referencing is a YouTuber who basically went through every single YouTube video that has gone out of this new product for Magic the Gathering. I realized that I didn't actually have this Reddit thread pulled up for you guys this whole time as I was reading it, but you guys get the idea. The point being that he went through every video and kind of, at least anecdotally, pointed out that it seems like the influencers who have a affiliation with this company are being seeded product, whether they know or not, to have interesting pack rip pulls and hits, and so it gets really exciting. And then when it can get clipped and shared and all these sort of things, I made a video about it. I talked about how I don't know if it's so explicit, but I would say that if I had my own trading card company, I mean, I would be having conversations about it in my marketing department. I would certainly be thinking about it. But what do you guys think about kind of this concept? Maybe Rob, you can talk about this. You know, influencers, pack ripping, pulling one of one's chase cards. Is it all fake?
Loaded boxes, the #1 favorite topic of the tinfoil hat brigade in the sports card world. They love this topic. And there's some compelling arguments. You see some stuff sometimes and you're like, boy, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 on that one, but it also goes to some extremes as well. I know myself personally, I've been accused of getting loaded boxes from companies in the past because of it. Basically, there is a segment of people that anyone that opens a box on camera that hits anything good, it was immediately a loaded box. Like there was no way that just happened on its own.
I mean, I watched you get destroyed by that Topps Chrome box. So
yeah, yes, yes, I did get destroyed by that. But you know, I had a video a couple days later where I hit like a $700 card out of a $20 hanger, and so all of a sudden the loaded boxes were back in action once again. People don't care about the video that you get wrecked in the face opening an $800 box of Chrome. They just see the one where you open the $20 hanger and get loaded. It's weird in sports cards because the breakers, so much product is open on camera that you are bound to see. Like the narrative will be, how come all these big cards are hit on camera when in the past you never used to see anything? And part of that is a lot of high-end boxes are opened on camera now, whether through breaking or through content creators. And really anyone could be on YouTube. Like even if you weren't a content creator, if you're opening an expensive box of cards, like why wouldn't you record a video of it? Like everyone is on social somewhere.
It helps your cost. Like that's the dream for, like, I feel like for a lot of those content creators is where like the money you make from the video covers the cost of the product you just opened. You know,
$80 that I made on the $800 box did not help a ton.
Well, yeah, for that case. But there's like, I mean, there's like a lot of
saying,
like Pokemon channels I watch where they make more than their cost out of opening it, so they open it. You know, like I watch like Pokerev, and he gets wrecked on product all the time. And
there's a difference,
but he's making so much money off those videos and everything that it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. And there's ways that you can, I mean, I have done video breakdowns where I open boxes. And the thing with a box opening is if you're smart about it, a single box opening can be multiple pieces of content, because it's like, here's what I got out of the box. Here's what I sent the grading. Here's what I got back from grading. Here's what I sold. Here's how much I sold it for. Like I've gotten 4 to 5 videos out of one box opening in the past. And then, you know, that content starts adding up. You got all the content out of it. Maybe you make $50 a video. Like then it starts to kind of add up a little bit that you can offset some of the costs. Plus it's tax write-off then at that point. There is a lot of little angles that you could work there for sure. But most people, you have to get pretty good views on stuff to offset, especially sports card boxes are so expensive these days.
Yeah, I mean, like, so just kind of want to respond to
a full-time card content creator, by the way.
Well, like the comment from some bald guy 70 in there where he said they make so much more on sponsors and AdSense. Like you do have to be a large channel. Like I mean, I have a very, like, I think most of us on screen here have a very good idea approximately what you make per view based, and it can vary based on how long the video is and that kind of thing. So I can make very educated estimates on how much that content creator made on that video, and if he, you know, lost money or not opening $1,000 of product, you know. And well, you have to get, you have to get some pretty serious views. Like if you're opening $1,000 box, you need to get like
probably
100,000 to 200,000
niche will vary. I know, you know, I said this publicly before. for me, about 100,000 views equals about $1,000 typically in AdSense revenue.
Yeah.
That can vary depending on the month because there's a lot of
Yeah,
weirdness
for
in
sure.
AdSense. It's not perfect, but at least in the sports card niche, you need 100,000 views to make $1,000.
It's not always about the views and the sponsorship stuff, is it? Like a lot of times it's sort of like if you are a hobby store or you are a dealer, like it just is obvious that you should be making content as well because you're already going to be doing this work. So essentially this is like a loss leader commercial for you. Even if you don't get hits in the boxes, you're still pushing people to your Whatnot stream or to your comic book store or to your trading card store or whatever you got going on. You're still pushing people in that direction. So it's worth for you to film the content. But like kind of going back to, the broader topic, which is like, are people getting seeded boxes? Are influencers opening up this stuff? I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like I don't know if it's so explicit that a company would do it, but at the same time, I'm just being honest. If I was a company and I knew that I was going to do some bigger event or some bigger pack rip poll or whatever, maybe I don't care if, Manu pulls the $10,000 card. That I'm not so concerned with that. What I'm actually concerned with is what if you literally open up like 3 boxes in a row and it's literally like the same card printed over, like the worst possible thing. Like that's what I'm actually scared of. And so when it comes to like
Like when you open those blind bags and got
yeah, 3 covers in a row.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you know it's genuine because I went to the comic book store and I just bought them. But like, those are the things that I have to imagine that if there's seeding going on, it's like the preventing the bad PR seeding that I feel like people are thinking about most. But I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Or Manu, what are your thoughts on maybe even the broader topic of influencer culture right now in the hobby?
Well, an interesting thing about the influencer culture and the hobby, like I think Neo said it, and then people in the chat agreed here. But and by the way, I guess I'm not seeing all the chat. So all of our videos have separate chats going on, and I don't see them all. Anyway, the idea that an influencer can afford to take a loss on a product that they're opening is actually a very important thought. And anybody being influenced by that influencer should be fully aware of that. And I actually, my friend knows who I'm talking about, but many, many years ago, actually, I could say this, Justin Spidey Hits, he opens a lot of product. And on his channel, we used to do a show together. There'd be a lot of card product open. I'd openly say this. I think I said this on stream one day. You'd open thousands of dollars worth of product. And I told him, I said, look, it's great fun for you. And I, spoke to the chat and spoke to the audience watching, the community watching. He said, I wouldn't advise any of you guys do the same thing, though. Right. And it goes into the idea that, our friend Justin is creating content. There's a cost to do what he's doing, and that cost is offset by the doing of it. But a collector does not have that benefit. So if a collector is being influenced by someone whose business it is to open product, it's not the same thing. So you have to be super mindful of that. And a lot of that responsibility is on the influencer. A play on words, not much of a play on words, but I've said be a good influencer, right? Be a good influence, right? And Justin does as much, right? Justin would say, listen, guys, I don't think you should do this. This product is overpriced, but live vicariously through me. We're about to open up a case, so on and so forth. And then a lot of influencers become breakers. They end up on Whatnot and they get to enjoy opening a bunch of product because it's all paid for by the people that have bought the spots, the character breaks, what have you. So I don't know if that's an evolution or a graduation, but it's another thing in that space of content creating. Whatnot stream is not content creating, but people do enjoy Whatnot streams as content, and the person ripping that product again is doing it as a business, right? But it's still having an influence on the people watching. So the people being influenced, it's their responsibility to be mindful and realize that someone opening $1,000 product is not the same as theirs. And I know you guys just said this, but I thought it was worth like saying it a little bit more because that's actually such an important thought. I don't think it's ever been like articulated so well as you guys have done. So I think I had a second part to what I was about to say on the influencer note, but I forgot it because that just sort of resonated with me as like a very important message. Oh, and the other thing about, we used to call them influencer boxes. I'm sure it's still what it's called. My idea is that, yeah, it happens. It's a thing, but then at the same time, it's like, it's the same thing with when, we're accusing any company of doing anything, like how many people are aware of it, and wouldn't there be whistleblowers? Like, what sort of controls are in place to make sure the influencer gets the right product, but the only the trusted people, at the company are aware or responsible? How do you trust the team, the employees, the staff, to coordinate that without going public with it? That's interesting, right? But do I think that influencer boxes happen? Personally, I do. Can I back it up with anything? No, that might just be me, kind of my suspicious nature and thinking like, well, duh. And then what you said makes a lot of sense. Even if it's not just to, pull the biggest card in the world, which kind of sometimes takes the wind out of the sails of a product, right? Like if the biggest cards are pulled, well, what the hell is everyone else going to buy the product for? So it's not necessarily the greatest thing, but it makes for great clips. But I love what you said, if only to manage disappointment. Like maybe it's a mild influencer box. It's not going to give them $100,000 card, but let's make sure that it's not a complete dud, because that's bad for marketing and everyone's watching this influencer. So that thought
that's
I
the
really
thing. You don't
appreciate.
want them. Yeah, if you're going to seed a box, you're not going to want to give them like a one of one serialized card. You're
Right.
going to give them like some type of like mid hit, where it's like it's like you have something that's decent, that looks cool or whatever. But yeah, you if you're going to seed it, like you really don't. I feel like you don't want to give them the best things, because then that takes away from other people trying to chase it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And who are the bad influencers these days? I haven't really. Are there bad guys out here? Are there people shilling and pumping a bunch of bullshit? Like, what's happening out here?
There's 4 of them live on the stream right now.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go, guys. You've come to
Bye,
the
bye,
right
bye.
place. Welcome.
We are the
No.
we are the dirtiest of influencers.
The voice
Well,
of reason here. The voice of reason. All
yeah.
right. Sell into this. Sell into it now. Anyway.
We
yeah.
would be much better off if we were telling people to hold their absolute Batman ones, or to buy their absolute Batman ones. Okay, we
At any price, you should
At
buy
any
it
price.
at
At
any price.
Yeah.
Yo, no, yeah, I'm not gonna. Okay, yes.
All right, we're going to switch gears here to an interesting topic, specifically coming out of the original art space. Now, I want to give this segment a little bit of a caveat, because I am getting a lot of this information, through a source, and I'm not here to call out any specific dealer or specifically this auction house for this, we'll call it a mistake that happened on their site. But I wanted to talk and bring up this conversation with you guys here today and to the chat, because I think it's very, very important as original art continues to be a thing that becomes more and more hot, and the values for original art continue to explode, and people are chasing this stuff. How important it is to be very sure that the people that you are buying this art from are people that you trust, and that you have an understanding of the where the art is coming from, and that you are in fact getting what you think that you are getting. But I wanted to bring up a presentation and talk about this. A user who just wanted to be kind of unnamed for the segment reached out to me the other day and made mention of how he thought a dealer is selling fake reprints out there for being posed as original art. And in particular, he had one piece that he used as an example here, and it's the one in front of you, and let's talk about this. So this is actually from a Spanish magazine that came out in 1974. If you guys know, Ghost Rider came out in 1972. In the Spanish market, he was transported over to this magazine. That's where he was introduced. He had a different color scheme, which I thought was really interesting. But this was the a Spanish magazine that had him on the cover, and it was a painting done by an artist out there named Lopez Espy. This is the cover that he did. Now, that cover recently went up for sale on Comic Link. And when I say recently, it actually went up for sale 2 years ago in 2023. So pseudo recently relative to the piece when it was painted. This is the original art piece. And Comic Link advertised it. It ended up selling for $3,169 with 27 bids. The head of it, the title of it says, Superheroes Presenta #2 Cover Painting. And inside the Comic Link comments, they say Spanish cartoonist Rafael Lopez SB created this painting in 1974 featuring Johnny Blaze. This version of Ghost Rider was for the Spanish market, et cetera, describing it as, or at least presenting it as being the original piece of art. That would be all well and good, except for the fact that it is not the original piece of art, seemingly. The user ended up showing me that this artist actually currently does commission repaints. And he showed me that, there were some discrepancies in the original publishing of the image versus what the art that was being advertised actually had. Now, there are some things that, like, you never really know, like in the production, is it possible that some of the texture was changed or some things were warped? Like, that's always very possible. But when you kind of focus in on the nuance and the details of it, you really do start to see some minor differences that wouldn't necessarily be something that you would assume could be a publication tweak. For instance, where Ghost Rider is sitting above the seat, there's kind of a little angle on the left side, which, I realize, what we're talking about here, but this is important stuff, Ryan. Okay, keep it together.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but the left side is the original. You can see that there's an angle there versus on the right side, which is the presumed repaint, or at least the art that is being sold at Comic Link, has more of a rounded space right there. If you look at his hand, there's a large gap between his pointer finger on the magazine cover versus on the repaint. The gap is much more small. And then you can see at the arc of his thumb, it's more angular on the original. It's more rounded on the original versus the art piece that was being advertised. It's more pointed and angular. So
Definitely different. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely minor details different. This goes on that he shared with me text messages of actually Lopez doing the repaint, which I don't know where he got this photo. Maybe you could say that this is maybe he just posted it on his Instagram because the thing was going up for sale. Nobody really knows. And I'm not saying that he is the seller, but the point is that he is showing that he does do this commission work. And he sent a text message thread talking about how he reached out to the dealer and asked him, like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, it seems like you're selling this thing. Was this your piece? And the dealer admitted that it was a repaint, but he said that he sold that repaint to someone else, and that repaint ended up on Comic Link. So perhaps the person who bought this thing from this repaint dealer was the one who consigned it to Comic Link, but Comic Link didn't catch that. Although it is a little bit fishier when you go to the repaint dealer's website, where this is in Spanish, but I thankfully got ChatGPT to kind of translate for it. But, suffice to say, he sells these repaints from this artist, and he advertises in the header that this is an original painting. But then in the description, it's like in small print, repaint. So there's a lot of kind of, smoke and mirrors going on. And, again, Comic Link eventually put this piece up for sale, and it did sell for, $3,100, and no mention of the fact that this is a repaint. The person I spoke with, later explained to me in more detail about how, the artist typically will sign, if he does repaints, like on the back of it, or he'll make a little note that it's a repaint or a recreation, but at the same time, he didn't do it for this one, which, again, not saying anything, but that's very odd. Like, what is the situation here? And I guess I kind of wanted to throw it out to you guys as, sort of a interesting conversation, this idea of recreations and repaints and fakes being sold out there, and how you just got to be really careful now that everyone's jumping into this original art space. But I'll kind of throw it to you guys. What do you guys think about this story?
I mean, to me, as someone who has more recently gotten into purchasing original art, it is like, that's like one of my biggest fears. It's like how do you prove that something is this original? And that's where you go like, well, then that's why I try to buy from a trusted seller. But you're like, that's one of the bigger trusted sellers out there, Comic Link. So, it's concerning. Like, it's like, you have to know this stuff happens. And we've talked about this before. Like, anytime there's you can make money somewhere, there's going to be crappy people out there that are going to take advantage of the situation. You try to protect yourself, but like, man, it's like, I guess you just have to know now, like, if you're looking at buying some original piece of art, like, I guess find the original, like the original published piece, and do a close-up compare. You know, if you're really looking at bidding on it, like maybe that's on you now, at least to some extent. Which sucks. It always sucks when people ruin things, you know, but it's the case all the time.
I yes, like do things slip by even the larger, more established auction houses? You have to imagine they do, right? I love what Ryan said. Like, if there's a piece you're going after, try to do as much research and due diligence as you can. Don't just take the word for the organization selling it. It could have gotten by them. But you put up on the screen a moment ago something from Brian McClay, Beyond Wednesdays. What up? There are some major counterfeiting claims coming, and it's not this story. Just wait, brother. You hooked me, hook, line, and sinker. I'm so here for it. I'm so eager to hear what you're going to be sharing with us. Yes. So regardless, yeah, about this story, I think the evidence that's been provided, it adds up, right? That is absolutely a recreation. And like some of our friends in the chat have said, recreating a painting, no harm in that, as long as it's being sold as a recreation, right? And even from that dealer's site, not the artist himself, but the dealer site where it says original painting, of course, that is true. It is an original painting. It is painted. But it's a recreation of the published work, which in the finer print, they've made note of it. And it would make total sense that the artist himself, knowing that there's an original version associated with the published piece that would be the most sought after, that if he were to recreate this, just to assume that it could create confusion elsewhere, it should be signed differently or indicated as such. And it's probably best practice, and it's probably something artists commonly do to make that differentiation. And it is interesting that that wasn't done on this piece. But again, don't know the artist, don't know much more than what was presented here. And I hope the artist doesn't have anything to do with it. But this thing that we've briefly spoken about, and I'm not calling anybody out, but sometimes I myself have felt this way. So I'm not even speaking for anyone else. I'm speaking for myself. When there's an artist, a talent that I really appreciate, I tend to forget that they're human, right? And humans are susceptible to all kinds of greedy stuff. Who knows what's happening in their mind? Who knows what sort of person they actually are, right? And I jokingly said to you, just because you're good with the paintbrush or you're good with the pencil, it doesn't mean you're a saint. It doesn't mean your moral compass is, well calibrated, right? You're just as able to lie and steal as anyone else, and you happen to be in a position to print money, should you choose to. And one of the examples that I gave, and I know you guys hate when I don't name the artist, but I'll follow up with you about this, but I can't name the artist because I can't prove what I'm about to say. It's just a memory. But I remember an artist was releasing some recreated work. Like, this was a whole series of things that were recreated, and it was known to be. But to accompany those, there were photographs taken of the preliminary art from when the original versions of these recreations were done, right? The recreations were done because the original versions were super popular and super memorable. But prior to those original versions having been made decades ago, there were like preliminary sketches. I remember watching an interview, and I just have the memory, I've never been able to find this interview again, of this artist saying that when he was preparing the photographs for these recreations to pair up with the preliminaries, he never found all of the preliminaries, and he whipped some up for the sake of having the pairings of the pictures. Now, he was open about saying that, right? Like, this was an interview that I remember watching. For some reason, I can't find it. Maybe I can't find it because it's been taken down. I don't know. But I haven't been able to find it. And then those preliminaries were offered for sale, all of them. And not once was it mentioned that some of them, as I remembered from what this artist said, were recreated so that he can have the photos. And that never sat well with me. I was like, wait a second. I heard you say you made some of these just recently, but now that they're all for sale, you're claiming they're all the OG stuff. So do artists take advantage of their celebrity, the desire of collectors to own their stuff, and they know it's kind of easy for them to get away with it? I think they do. I would hope majority of them don't, but it definitely seems like something that happens. And this evidence here of going through like, a major auction house definitely causes some concern. And I myself, like Ryan, recently into original art, I'm going to be paying a great deal of attention. I did buy a painting recently of a published cover, and well, recently 2 years ago. I just haven't shown it to anyone. And one of the things I was so excited about was I ended up buying it directly from the artist who had it since 1994 when he painted it. And I said, can I get like a letter of provenance, right? And I didn't know how beautiful a letter he was going to provide me, but it's like the coolest thing ever, right? And so like that's going to help if and when I move that piece onto someone else, we'll have like legitimate provenance, at least more than some pieces might come with. So provenance is super important and something to make that connection. I didn't mean to talk for this long on it, but yeah, definitely not good, and probably happens way more than we think.
Well, I mean, a perfect example of this, and I think we've touched on this maybe in a prior video, but it was the whole like the Pokemon preliminary cards that that came out, and those like came from one of the original creators. Like that's my understanding of that story. And if I'm wrong, correct me, someone. But like it was like he was involved in that, and it's like, how do you like you just like you would think that that person would have the best interests in mind for that, that item that they're putting out there. But
Right.
you never know someone's financial situation. You never know what they like, where they are, and like what the, and so that type of stuff, like you can't necessarily trust. I mean, anyone, like, because you'd have to think like that person probably is doing fairly well, and so it's always it's just you got to be cautious, like be careful about all this kind of stuff. But man, like the other thing, like I was just thinking, like with that if that artist like put some type of notation on there that differentiates it or not, like I mean, yeah, it'd be good if they did, but also a lot of people just assume the best from someone, like they're creating something for someone, and they're never, it's not crossing their mind that, oh, this person down the line is going to try to take advantage of this situation. Like there's a lot of people that just assume the best in people. And I mean, that's great to have people out there that are like that. But the reality is, like you don't know 2 people down the line, 5 people down the line, 10, like at some point that knowledge or that connection gets lost. And then how do you differentiate it?
It's a very fair point, because a lot of the artists are very unaware of the collector market, and they don't realize like how important the provenance is a lot of the times. But it kind of also ties in, this reproduction painting with another story that kind of broke. And I kind of want to just quickly bring this up to circle it back to some of the broader conversation. This is an article out of the Beat, but Cadence Comic Art. If you guys don't know, Cadence Comic Art used to be kind of a representative of a lot of like current working artists. And there was a big lawsuit that kind of came out where a lot of the artists were like making posts about how I'm no longer affiliated with Cadence, and they don't represent me anymore. And there was like a big uproar in the community because a lot of people who had gotten commissions from artists were not getting their commissions, or like artwork was being sold. But then it was like, wait, I didn't know that you sold that. And there was a lot of craziness going on. Most of the fingers got pointed at this art rep. This article talking about how the lawsuit was recently settled. But I just kind of thought that was an interesting story, that a lot of people were saying, like, the middlemen and the art reps like can be doing a lot of very strange things, especially when it's like very opaque. But also, like you said, the artists themselves, I'm sure it's not a popular thing to say, to say that artists do some bad things too, but a lot of them take on commission work and never come through, and just take people's money, and they move on with it, and people get upset by that, and who knows what happened here. But you really have to consider, because like imagine you're an artist who, let's say you did some, I don't know, like some 90s cover, and you just don't have it anymore. You lost it, and now you're seeing all these 90s covers selling like crazy. Like, is there not temptation to be like, well, what if I just recreated it and I could sell it? Like, and you have to think about that stuff. I mean, I don't know how easy it is to recreate, say, a classic Copper Age cover. There's gonna be so many eyeballs on that. But let's say it's like a 2005 cover, or like a 2011 cover, some of those ones that like might be a little bit easier to get away with. And also, Derek mentioned in the chat, there's a lot of people who do digital art right now. what's to say that they don't kind of say, oh well, yeah, I did do this digitally, but let me just do an original art piece because Absolute Batman 1 is the biggest book in the world, and I want to make sure I can sell the original art. I'm not accusing it. It's just humans are human, and you have to wonder as values go crazy for original art, could any of this stuff happen? But
no, exactly, right. And I forgot to mention, I believe you received this message as well. I received this message, and I do believe the individual asked to remain anonymous, but I haven't gone back into that message. There's some more information that was provided to me. And Brian, if this is what you're going to talk about, I feel like you're going to go way in depth about it. So I want to hear it from you. This is not going to be a spoiler. This is just going to be a teaser then to kick it off to you for when you do cover it, because I want to get all the information. But it was brought, and maybe this isn't it, but it was brought to my attention that out of these blind bags, the sketch covers, people are recreating the sketch covers and just selling them on the open market, right? I don't remember the artists and stuff. I think maybe there's even some, I don't remember the
I
artists,
mean,
but
there was a big thing with people like faking those Ryan Otley like blood like splatter
exactly
things and that
so
kind of stuff.
so this is of course not the conversation of the morality, the morality of the artist. This is just, these are just individuals that are taking advantage of collectors, right? But it is tying into the fact that fake artwork, a thing for sure. Yeah.
Bob, do you really want to know?
I remember the first time I went to, I think it was Heroes Con in like 2022 or whatever, and I saw an original artwork table, and then I saw the prices of original artwork. And my first question, I forget who I was with, I was just like, so you guys just kind of like trust that none of this is like fake or real, or like how do you know that this is what they say that it is?
Trust
Like
me,
it's a
bro.
random OA page from some random, not like a cover, but just like a random page from a book from, the Copper Age or whatever, from a some random Avengers or X-Men book that has no real significance, selling for thousands of dollars. And there's just like no authentication, no grading, no slabbing, no nothing. It just, the first time I saw it, I was like, this is the Wild West.
You know what's so fascinating about that? Well, maybe not so fascinating about it, but no one knows this happened because I didn't talk about it until I knew, what was happening. But Swag knows. There was just a member of the comic book community that you would not expect to have. You would not expect someone to contact this individual and be like, "Here's $10 million worth of original art." But word got back to me that someone knew someone, and that individual trusted them with the idea of selling this art. And this art was like, rolled up in a tube in a basement somewhere. And one of the pages, if I remember correctly, if I'm not getting this wrong, I don't think I'm getting this wrong, was the actual first appearance of Wolverine, like the splash page. I'm going to get beat up for that. The splash page from Hulk.
That has sold on
180.
Heritage before.
Right. So so that was interesting as well, right? But that's the funny thing about it, because someone was trying to convince someone of these massive pages being real. And if I remember correctly, it was Tom Fish. I think that's his name. This is a massive collector in original art, and he's on Comic Art Fans and stuff like that as well. And a friend of mine, I think it was Rohan back in the game comics, shout out, I think it was, reached out and he was like, "Yo, do you own this this page?" And homie very simply was like, "Yeah, whoever's telling you they have it is full of shit completely. Thank you. Bye." Like he was just like, "Yeah, I own it. It's still with me. It's not real." But that's like, how are you trying to manipulate someone into the biggest pieces in the world as if the owner's not going to make you aware that they own it? It's just interesting.
I think the trick is what Swags was saying. It's the stuff that's doesn't have a lot of eyeballs on it, or that the artists might know doesn't exist because they remember throwing it out, or like that's the sort of stuff that gets tricky. Or even maybe it's stuff that they're not 100% sure on, but it's so obscure that it's like, who's ever going to find it? And then it becomes he said, she said anyway, because who are you going to believe? Then it comes down to which person are you going to believe?
There's Voltron Matt. Yeah, but in this idea of like an artist just being able to whip up a prelim, I mean, a prelim is a pencil doodle on a piece of paper, right? Depending on how popular the artist is, it's $1,000, it's $1,500. You could just do that every morning if you wanted, you know? Like, who's doing the forensics on the pencil to know what year the lead is from? Like,
I guess you could on the paper, right? That's the thing people could do.
you could,
correct?
you could. I think you can. I absolutely think you can.
Yeah. Well, very interesting story. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of interesting OA scandals out there, and you know, again, it's something that I want to keep my eye on, because as OA continues to be more and more of a mature market and more people get excited about it, you have to imagine that there's going to be some bad actors out there in the hobby, and just got to be careful. And I just wanted to make everybody aware about it. But yeah, I think we're kind of coming up on the end of the show here. Let's kind of rapid fire through the last couple topics I wanted to talk about here. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but the Todd McFarlane signed books starting to get
It's
done.
blowing up my feeds. Everybody is posting their books. They're getting back.
Yeah, everyone's posted their books. Shout out to Black Market Comics. He did all right. Spawn number 1, 9/8. Spawn number 1, 9/8. Spawn number 9, 9/8, 9/8, 9/8. So I don't know, guys. Is the speaking of the market being able to absorb this stuff, like, what do you think is going to happen with all these Todd McFarlane signatures that pop up on eBay in the next couple weeks and months?
It's going to be a great time on eBay for Todd McFarlane collectors, because the signatures I'm seeing coming out of this one, like the full Todds, he's taking his time with most of them. I've seen some really good ones. I saw my things getting signed on one of the videos, and I was damn excited about it. I think we talked about it briefly. I wasn't able to make the cut for the thing, right? But then it reopened and I got all my stuff in. So that was kind of fantastic. And by all my stuff, it's not that many, but and that scroll logo, the kind of the vintage scroll, it looks quite classy on that label. There's going to be some beautiful books out there, and prices are going to be super competitive because it's about to get flooded. So there's going to be an opportunity to buy some great books with a great, very appealing signature at, pretty fair prices. It's not going to go crazy. I myself submitted some rather unique things where I have no idea what they're worth, but some things in multiples, I am going to be selling them as well. But some of the standard stuff, it's about to be fun, like the Spider-Man number 13, one of my favorite books, Black Suit Spidey, in a newsstand signed by Todd. I love it. And 1 year after the signing, someone had it signed in red. And on that cover, there's a bunch of little red spiders, but you don't really think about it. But when the signature's red, it brings those spiders to life. And I was able to buy it from someone that submitted it, and they didn't appreciate how valuable it was to me because of how incredible it looked. And then a great friend of mine in the community paid me a nice amount of money to own it himself. Like, I maximized my profit.
I was just going to joke that you were shilling something to sell for the future.
Oh, I've already sold it.
So.
I've already sold it, right? But the point that I'm making is, on eBay, people are going to be competing with other like items. But for someone that's focused on the details, like this is an exceptional example of whatever it might be, once the eBay stuff is done, 5-6 months later, the best of the best can sell for well more than what you paid for it, is what I'm saying. So it's going to be a fun time. I'm excited for everyone getting their books back, and my own too. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I'd say keep an eye out for like auctions of that stuff, because that's where you're going to find the deals. Because I mean, every time he's done one of these signings, like, yeah, you get like a little correction in prices, but people just love Todd McFarlane stuff, you know, and it's going to go right back up. And the fact that, like you said, all these are the full Todd, I think that's really going to help them. I wanted to comment the one thing that I thought was really cool that I learned from this signing, from following CGC and like the post they were doing. I did not know that Todd McFarlane was responsible, and then like Capullo did the pencils for it, for the Korn Follow the Leader cover, like the Korn album Follow, like that's like my 90s, like, like one of the CDs I absolutely owned. And when I saw them post that and Todd had signed it, because he'll only sign stuff he's worked on, I looked it up and I was like, holy crap, like he was the one that I guess like it was his concept. And then Capullo did the pencils for it, and a couple other people did the inks and everything. But like, I thought that was awesome. That was super cool to learn that, because I never appreciated that when I was a kid.
Dude,
so
when you
we know what you're
say
submitting on the next signing.
I don't think they grade CDs, CD cases.
That would be pretty amazing, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they will. Maybe that's the
When-
next thing CGC is going to grade.
When you
is,
mention it and
CDs.
I pulled it up, I think I've heard that mentioned. It just didn't register. But when you mention and you pull it up, you see Todd and Capullo all through that thing. Like it's immediate once you know to look for it. That's very cool.
But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. I
That's
figured
dope.
there's some other people in here that are that maybe that takes them back to the 90s. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Well, it's going to be a risk-on environment for people buying up Todd McFarlane signatures, and it's also going to be a risk-on environment for people buying up Lego's first ever Pokemon collab. Rob, are you all over this?
The thing that's going crazy for this is the gift with purchase on the big Lego set, because those are limited releases, and that is selling for, I think last I checked, almost $300 for the free gift with purchase that you got if you pre-ordered the big $650 Lego set.
it's like the I can't remember what it's
Badges.
called. Well, no, I thought it was I thought it was like the little computer thing. I don't know why I'm completely blanking on what it's called. I thought that was like the secondary set that was. part of it.
I forget what it is, but if you look up Pokemon Lego gift with purchase, right there.
Oh, okay.
That's the gift
All
with
right.
purchase.
That's right here.
Yeah, that little thing is selling for about $300.
Cool.
My
It was
goodness.
free.
It's important to point out that in the post, they say that descending order of price, the Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise are $649 a
That's
pop.
the go back 2 slides.
Yeah,
That's a big
this
one.
one right
that
here.
one. Yeah.
I went to the Lego
$649.
store last weekend and I was just checking. I knew that the stuff was all sold out. I was like, I just wonder if they have one on display or something. They did not.
Well, they're not out yet. They don't come out till the end of February.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's
Yeah.
gonna, that right there.
Oh, so
is
the
gonna
sales
be
we've been
another
seeing are
one that
pre-sale.
sells
Like
for a
people
lot.
are posting like pre-sales on eBay because I'd seen people like listing them already.
You could
Okay.
you could have pre-ordered it on Lego.com and on Pokemon.com early. I think they've closed those now. Maybe. The thing I never understand why people overpay for Lego, like the Stranger Things Creel House Lego set that came out at the beginning of the year is flipping on the secondary market because it's sold out. But like they reprint them for basically 2 straight years. So I don't know, other than just like you have to have it right now, you could just wait and you'll be able to get it. The thing that has value instantly are the gift with purchases, because those are only sold for usually like the first 72. In the case of the Creel House, it's sold out in about 12 hours. And that one's pretty pricey now. The gift with purchase that came with that, those sell for crazy money. And then Lego sets, like there are people that invest in sealed Lego. There's just a long hold period because you have to wait for it to retire, and then you have to wait for demand to pick up on it. Like I bought the which I came to it late. The first Stranger Things Lego set that they did came out when the show first came out. So it wasn't super popular because most people didn't realize that Stranger Things was going to be like the cultural icon that it was. And that set originally sold for like 150, maybe 180 bucks back when it released. And then during the season 5 ran, it got almost up to like $1,000. Because once they go out of print, they never make them again. So Lego investing is this whole other little weird subculture.
And all I know is that at the end of the year, when we did that review of eBay's most searched things, Pokemon and Lego were at the top. So this kind of feels like a match made in heaven for dealers, speculators, flippers, collectors.
I just feel like the clip that keeps rolling in my mind, like there's so many times in this conversation today where that Simpsons clip where Homer pulls up and like screams nerd. Like there's just so many times in this, like we could have that cut in and it would work
CG
perfectly.
Pirates to Lego dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is
Neo.
wild.
I
Well,
just saw the message, Neo.
Oh, yeah. We
I
can talk
won't
about
say
that after the
anything.
show.
That's amazing.
all right, we'll take a look at that. That's our cue that we got to wrap up the show. But gentlemen, I want to say it was another amazing show for our Ungraded Truth podcast, which of course, like I've already said, is the #1 show in the universe. Again, thank you to everybody in chat for hanging out tonight. Head on over to our YouTube channel, give it a subscribe, give it a like, give it a follow, and also head over to our Spotify page if you guys want to listen on there. Give it a 5-star review. Be a moon boy, because 2026 is the year of risk on. But Gentlemen, any final words before we go?
I'm trying to get that Mountain Dew sponsorship money for the channel. So
I would sell out the Mountain Dew in a second.
Oh my God. So if anybody's watching that's associated with Pepsi, reach out to us.
Just buy TCG waifu cards and you'll make money.
Please follow me on Instagram. I want to be inspired by your collections. Come find me. Thank you.
What a shill. See you guys.
Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.